Today's chapel is led by the TLU group that traveled to Germany this past May to visit the land of Luther. Today's chapel is organized around the themes of our trip journals: Homeland, Wanderland, Pilgrimage, Wonderland, and Newfoundland. We begin with Homeland, if those folks would come up. Who and where and how were we when we began this journey?
When we were heading to Germany, I expected a blend of rural and urban environment that was relatively static and free of the constant construction that happens here, which is what I heard made Europe beautiful. I was at the same time excited and scared, nervous and calm, and a torrent of emotion trying to keep stereotypes at bay.
I couldn't sleep the night before we left. I just watched the clock, and when the alarm went off, I was ready to go in about 2 minutes. After months and months, this was it, and I was finally going to Germany.
The way is clouded with the dark of unknowing. Up ahead a light beckons, and you hope it is good. At least we go towards it together.
Wanderland, the great departure away from the familiar, the trusted, and the known.
In Germany, I just couldn't start a conversation with anyone because everybody spoke German. And there were other differences too, like the sun rose at 6 in the morning and went down at 10 at night. And I guess since everything is bigger in Texas, everything seems smaller in Germany. The streets, the cars, and even this door.
For much of our trip, Wittenberg was our own personal playground. The city seemed to embrace us, and we were happy to call it our own for a while. It is there I first learned to wander.
I found myself wanting to get lost in the history, lost in the great moments, and lost in the desperate moments. And I hoped that I would be found by that living word that was present in the day of Luther, ever present even in the day of Holocaust, and now present for me in my wandering. Pilgrimage. We traveled into the unknown not as tourists to consume, but rather as pilgrims to study, to simply be there, and to be open to God.
The group got the opportunity to see many of the places important to Luther's life. It gave us a taste of what his life was like, but also helped me learn what the man was like and what he taught.
Who would have thought that I could have sat in the main churches where Martin Luther preached, in his room where he lectured, the castle where he was held in secret, and stood accidentally around and on top of his grave. It was one thing to talk about these places in confirmation class, but to see these magnificent buildings with so much history and beautiful architecture, it allowed me to walk away with a revived and deeper connection to my faith.
While at Lutherhaus, I looked out the window of the 3rd floor into the courtyard towards Catherine's statue. I could almost see Luther walking his path with the students who all lived with him at the time as they discussed the happenings in their world. It was like all the stories of Luther from Sunday school were unfolding right in front of me.
I really enjoyed seeing all the places Luther lived and taught, and even where he was buried in the Castle Church. But the one thing I will never forget is singing his hymn, A Mighty Fortress, in Wittenberg.
Wonderland. New insights made us think twice, new experiences that we did not want to forget, things that cause us to wonder about who we are, what life is, and how God is present in it all.
Most people think wandering is a solitary activity. This doesn't need to be the case. Often getting lost in your own mind is best accomplished around others engaged in similar activity.
There's so many things from this trip that I don't want to forget, from the people we met, to the excursions we took, to the places we went, and the things we saw.
I got to see a new world in Germany. everything from the biking through the streets of Wittenberg to sharing the life experiences with the local high school children, and then relaxing at the beer gardens. These are the things I will never forget.
One of my favorite moments of the trip was getting to experience Sunday morning worship inside the Castle Church at Wittenberg. I enjoyed getting to sing and pray with other Christians from Germany, and it was even more awesome that I was sitting only a few feet away from the tomb of Martin Luther.
And finally, Newfoundland. What we saw changed the way we see and understand our world, and we hoped that it changed the way we lived.
I enjoyed this trip so much. It was a trip of a lifetime, and there's several times a day that I think of all the fun and excitement that we had on the trip, and I can't wait for another opportunity to go abroad again.
Now that I'm home, I want to go back. I miss Wittenberg, but I'll always remember the relationships that grew with my fellow travelers, the new friends I met in Germany, and the incredible experiences we had traveling through Lutherland.
Experience is transformation. What you discover in new places is that there is commonality and difference, comfort and discomfort, history and present. Sometimes you're affirmed in who you are, sometimes you're affirmed in who you aren't, and sometimes you're challenged. But mostly you realize that you cannot be in a new place without seeing yourself or the world through a new lens, and a piece of you is changed forever.
I learned something from that long climb up the Tower Church steps. Even though something is hard, takes a long time, and is a little scary, like those last metal steps before the top, it's worth it. With friends to encourage you and a little bit of perseverance, you can reach the top and be rewarded with a breathtaking view.